English city of Manchester and speak to Colin Harding, who's a Latin America analyst, also director of Latinform. It's a consultancy and information service on Latin America and the Caribbean. Colin, it's always a pleasure to have you. I need you to help our viewers here, okay? Tell us about the coca leaf in Andean culture generally. I'll begin, actually. In 1988, Pope John Paul II went to Bolivia and he drank a cup of coca tea.
Yes, that's right. That's the production of that's perfectly legal certainly in Peru and Bolivia, and it can't be exported. Of course, can't be imported into Britain, for instance, as I discovered. But it's a comforting drink in high altitude, in cold and unpleasant weather. And at least at one time, the Bolivian army used to issue coca leaves to troops every day when they were going out on march, because they could chew the leaves, and this would help them to resist the cold and the fatigue.
Yeah.
So it goes back a very long time to the Inca Empire, of course. The ceremonial use of coca and coca leaves is very long established, and this is supposed to be the justification for continuing the cultivation of coca.
Yeah, and the report that we just ran started with one of the women protesters. You could see she was chewing a coca leaf in her mouth. Of course, these people are living thousands of meters above sea level as well. Are the farmers being shortchanged here by the government?
Well, actually, what's going on in La Paz at the moment is, on one level, an internal dispute among the coca growers of one valley, the Yungas, which is a tropical valley quite near to the capital. They're by no means the most important coca producers in the country. They're over in Cochabamba, which is in the center of the country, the Chapari region, which has far more coca in production. But it's significant in that what's going on is a dispute between supporters and opponents of the government. And the government, the left-wing government of President Luis Arce, claims that what's going on here is that the one faction of the coca growers in the Yungas is trying to plot a coup with enemies of the government in other parts of the country. So they see political projections in this, which is far more significant than just a dispute between coca growers.
Apart from the cartels, is the Bolivian government the biggest buyer of coca leaves? What does it do with the leaves?
Well, they do have a strictly controlled system for purchasing coca leaves for ceremonial and traditional uses. But of course, there's an awful lot of illegal, as has been said in your report, an awful lot of illegal production all over the country, particularly in Cochabamba. And that is not controlled by the government. There are supposed to be limits on what is allowed, but it's very difficult in a country like Bolivia to control that.
Colin, thank you very much indeed. You know, I wanted to get into the issue of how much profit there is to be made by the cartels who buy the coca leaves from the farmer. About 20 or 30 years ago, an American analysis said from a bag of leaves to the product being sold, cocaine, on the streets of the United States, the profit was 1,000%, but the coca farmer saw none of that. You know, next time we have a Latin America story, we'll come back to you, Colin. Thank you so much indeed.